Okay. We good to go? Is this going to pick me up here? Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay for those remote? With that. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Chicago Wilderness Alliance on our October meeting, which again, this is our second in-person meeting for the year. And as those of you that know, when we had the pandemic, we had the opportunity to meet hybrid. So virtual became a reality, which was awesome because then we could geographically, being that we represent 4 states around the southern shores of Lake Michigan, making it easier for us to connect and add one more thing to our work that we have. But ultimately, we did identify last year that there is value in coming together and socializing. And so really today, not only at this meeting, but what's going to come after for our celebration of nature this evening is about connection and celebration of all of our great work. So I'll go ahead. I will call today's meeting to order, and we'll start with introductions, just so, again, we have an opportunity to connect. And as we socialize for the rest of the day, we'll know who we're talking with. And just as a way of housekeeping, in the Executive Council meetings, everyone here that's on the Executive Council has the opportunity to advance, to vote, to talk. It's just not restricted to those that are on the steering committee or those that are up here that are officers. So this is your meeting, and this in essence is one of our annual meetings, and this happens whether it's in person or online. So Elizabeth Kessler, and I serve as the Executive Director of the McHenry County Conservation District, and an honor and a privilege to be serving in the role of chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hello, everyone. Victoria Wittig, formerly the ambassador for the Northwest Indiana Urban Waters Federal Partnership, but I'm starting in the middle of my 3rd week as the Illinois Indiana Conservation Manager of the Audubon Great Lakes team. I'm also vice chair and serve on the steering committee. Hand it over to our partner from Peggy Notabert.
Hi, thanks. I'm Allison Sacerdote-Vallette. I am the VP of Conservation Research and Curator of Biology and Herpetology here at the Nature Museum.
I'm Marissa Michaels, and I volunteer at Emily Oaks Nature Center in Skokie.
Caitlin Martinez-McWhorter, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Education with McHenry County Conservation District.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Schneider. I am the Manager of Education Services at the McHenry County Conservation District.
Hi, John Wasick, Commissioner of Lake County Forest Preserves and Steering Committee member.
Hi, everyone. I'm Noreen Rana. I'm a Senior Project Manager in the Department of Cultural and Natural Resources at the Chicago Park District.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jack Brunner with Tetra Tech and Elmhurst University.
Hello, I am Nathaniel Pillow with Midwest Biological Survey. I'm their senior botanist and a member of the steering committee.
Hello, my name is Casey Sullivan. I'm the Natural Resources Manager at Argonne National Laboratory.
Hi, my name is Melissa Kustik. I'm the Education Manager at Landscape Illinois.
Hi, I'm Joshua Kemp. I'm an Operations Coordinator and Restoration Technician at Stantec.
Hi, I'm Tim Kenning with the National Parks Conservation Association.
Gabe Powers, Director of Land Preservation, Natural Resources, McHenry County Conservation District.
Hello, Benjamin Cox, Executive Director of Friends of the Forest Preserves.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Kraus with Shirley Hines Land Trust.
Cynthia Canner. I'm Executive Director of Prairie State Conservation Coalition, which is Illinois.
Good afternoon. Steve Byers, Chair of Friends of Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge.
Hello, Nancy Williamson, also with Friends of Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge.
Good afternoon. My name is Lori Ryan, plant ecologist with McHenry County Conservation District, and I'm also co-chair of the Excellence in Ecological Restoration Program Commission.
Good afternoon. My name is John Peters. I'm the Restoration Ecology Manager with McHenry County Conservation District.
Chris Zeiner. I'm a Restoration Ecologist with McHenry County Conservation District.
Zach Canizzo, Conservation Ecology Manager with the McHenry County Conservation District.
Hi, Suzanne Fairfax, the Communications Manager at the Forest Preserve Foundation.
Deborah Walker Johnson, President and Executive Director of the Forest Preserve Foundation, and I'm also on the steering committee.
Adam Bianchi, I'm the General Superintendent for the Forest Preserves of Cook County.
Hi, I'm Maria Sadowski. Excuse me, I'm a communications consultant. I guess.
Hi, everyone. My name is Betsy Mayer. I'm the Executive Director of Save the Dunes. We're the official partner to the Indiana Dunes National Park.
Hello, Rebecca Judd. I'm a program officer with the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation.
Hi, I'm Shauna Flavel. I'm the Executive Director of the McHenry County Conservation Foundation.
My name is Kitty Kurth. I'm a fan of wilderness.
My name's Evelyn Alvarez. I'm a coordinator on the Conservation Action Team at Shed Aquarium.
Hi, folks. My name is Maya Kelly. I am Operations Manager for Chicago nonprofit Urban Rivers, as well as Sustainability Manager for Loyola University Chicago.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Lorenzo. I'm the Conservation Project Manager at Friends of the Chicago River.
Hello, my name is Faye Barakat. I'm a Master Naturalist with the University of Illinois Extension Program and a C3 trainee with the Nature Museum.
Good afternoon. I'm John Legg with Nature Conservancy in Illinois.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Garner, Data and Evaluation Analyst at the Forest Preserves of Cook County.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Ted Hafner, and I'm the Green Vision Coordinator for Chicago Wilderness Alliance.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marwa Saleh, and I'm the Calumet Projects Coordinator for the Wetlands Initiative.
Hello, Michelle Uding, Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Forest Preserves of Cook County and also the co-chair of the Government Relations Committee.
Hello, George Garcia Hide and Director of the Windy City Bird Lab.
Good afternoon, Vince Mosca with, I'm the Secretary of the Executive Council, Hay and Associates and Friends of Hackmatech.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily Reiswig. I'm Vice President of Policy and Land Conservation at Open Lands and also proud to serve as Treasurer for Chicago Wilderness.
Thank you. And I'm Laura Riley. I'm the Managing Director of Chicago Wilderness. Nice to see you all.
Did we get everybody? For those that are online, if we have more back here. Okay, Sergio, here.
That's fine. I think I can speak loudly. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Sergio Vargas. I'm the Policy Manager of Chicago Conservation for the Illinois Environmental Council. Hey, Jack here.
Wonderful. And then for those that are with us remotely, I know I can't see you as far as there, but if you just want to introduce yourself as well so we know who's with us. Are we the only one?
So we don't know. Yeah, we're all
All right,
here.
we're all here. Okay, wonderful. Wait, show you how to know how to advance this here. So.
Oh, that, sorry.
Okay, so as we go through on the
Reason up.
that's okay. We'll get to that in a moment here. So the thing of business we just want to have with the shared agreements, one of the things that we've adopted with our meetings is we're here, we're present, we're actively listening and participating, giving others the opportunity to speak. We're going to follow the agenda. And then of course, anything that you need, clarifying questions, I'll gain. But to start, it's our pleasure and we're grateful to the Peggy Notebart Nature Museum and to introduce Allison, and I want to make sure I get this right, Sacerdota Villette.
Very good.
Okay, all right, to say some remarks.
Thank you. All right. Well, I may talk at a good clip because I want to share about our conservation research programs here at the Nature Museum with you. Oops, wrong way. Okay. So if you're not familiar with our organization, I just wanted to share the background that Peggy Nodebart Nature Museum is an asset of the Chicago Academy of Sciences, and we were founded in 1857, committed to the scientific study of local biodiversity, as well as public education and engagement around nature. And a lot of our early work focused on describing species and documenting the biodiversity of the region through our natural history collection. If you've ever been to our collections facility in Ravenswood, it's really worth a visit. If you haven't gotten a chance to go out there, please reach out to our collections director. It's a fabulous facility. And we were Chicago's first natural history museum that opened to the public in 1869. And since that time, we've really heavily focused on education about the natural world. And we continue that legacy with our permanent and temporary exhibits, with our education programs and our public programs. And one of the best ways that we find to engage the public in active wildlife conservation research is through our community science programs. So we have 3 longitudinal biodiversity monitoring programs: the Illinois Butterfly Monitoring Network, which has been around for about 35 years, the Illinois Odonate Survey, and the Calling Frog Survey, which have both run for about 2 decades. And annually, we tend to receive about 2,000 surveys from over 300 volunteer monitors each season. And that is through partnership with many of you and your organizations, with all of the forest preserves and park districts, because these programs focus on monitoring wildlife response to restoration in publicly accessible natural areas. And one of the things that is really critical to us at the museum is that we hold these community science data in the public trust so that they're accessible to anyone. So researchers can use them, students, agency partners can all use them. And just as an example of that, our chief curator emeritus, Doug Taran, was co-author on this science paper that came out earlier this year on rapid butterfly decline across the United States in the 21st century. And this study engaged the data sets of 35 different community science programs focused on butterflies to document a 22% decline in butterfly populations across the United States. Through the different programs, we can ask different research questions about changes in distribution, changes in population size through time. So here you see, this is a visualization of some of our Calling Frog survey data. This is the distribution of spring peepers in a given season, and the diameters of the different points are indicative of different population sizes measured by acoustic index. We can also use these longitudinal data to ask questions about climate change. So we can do trend analyses looking at the proportion of sites that are occupied in a given season throughout the length of our program, and identify years and drivers where we have drops in occupancy. And so in this example, we've got American toad occupancy falling below 50% in severe drought years. So you could imagine that the more frequent drought occurs, the harder it will be for those populations to recover. And as you can see, it does take several seasons for these populations to get back to the occupancy they had pre-drought. So for our research program, we have a small team of researchers here at the museum, and we focus collectively on conserving imperiled insects, amphibians, and reptiles native to the Chicago region, the Great Lakes, and the Midwest. And all of these organisms are ectotherms with complex life cycles that are dependent on specific habitats or multiple habitat types like wetland and grasslands and oak savannas. And so our current research focus includes monitoring population sizes, distribution, examining wildlife response to habitat restoration, and trying to work to identify conservation threats and develop guidance to try to mitigate those threats. Much of our research also focuses on developing applied conservation techniques like head starting, reintroduction, and translocation to try to evaluate efficacy of these different techniques for reestablishing and securing populations of our imperiled species. So some of you may be more familiar with our butterfly conservation. We've worked with a number of native species through the years, most recently Baltimore checker spot butterflies, but in the past we've worked with swamp meadowlarks, regal fritillaries, purplish coppers, silvery checker spots, and most of these species are dependent on specific host plants to carry out their life cycles. Additionally, many are weak flyers, and people think, well, butterflies should be able to disperse, but some of them cannot disperse far enough from a remnant pocket to get to restoration. And that's where applied techniques like translocation and reintroduction may need to come in order to secure regional populations. Some species have lower winter survivals as caterpillars. And so we try to work on different techniques to bolster overwintering survival and establish new populations in restored habitats. So our general approach is to field collect modest numbers of females from robust populations, and that's informed by our community science programs. We bring in a small number of females and induce ovipositing in our butterfly conservation lab on the first floor. We provide them with host plant grown on our prairie, and we rear the larvae to the desired stage, overwinter them if necessary. If we rear them out to adult stage, we can then allow them to mate and have an even larger cohort size to work with for reintroduction efforts. And then we field release the populations and focus on field monitoring through pollard walks and reintroduction efforts. We also do a variety of survey work projects with different agencies. Several years ago, Dr. Doug Taron and Alan Lawrence did some survey work in Will County to examine butterfly abundance and richness across different sites to try to identify which species may require greater conservation effort or particular habitat restoration needs. Recently, Alan just wrapped up the third year of surveys with Chicago Park District in the Chicago River Turning Basin to see the changes in the butterfly communities with floristic restoration and enhancement through time. Some of my work focuses on forest amphibian conservation. I've been working in this realm for about 2 decades and change. And one of the species that I've worked on for the longest amount of time is the wood frog, which is an Illinois species in greatest conservation need. We know that they were historically distributed in Lake and Cook County, as well as a few pockets in Will and DuPage, but they've largely been extirpated since the 1980s. And through partnership with Lake County Forest Preserve District, they underwent a very ambitious restoration project back in 1999 and 2000 to remove drain tile and remove buckthorn from some of the historic wood frog sites. So since that time, we've been monitoring amphibian response to these restoration efforts and trying to reestablish wood frog populations. We use egg mass translocation to do this because it gives us the best site fidelity, as well as having the lowest risk of pathogen transmission when you do translocation. So we can use pond enclosures to learn about demographic rates, like hatching success, and larval survival. And through this approach, we've been able to reintroduce wood frogs to 3 restored flatwood sites in southeastern Lake County. And this is going to lend us more redundancy to the population in case there's disease or drought or other effects that focus on a specific site that could knock a population back. By establishing multiple populations, we can help secure the species at the regional scale. We also monitor amphibian population community dynamics and health in response to oak restoration. So we do annual egg mass surveys, live trapping with photo mark recapture, larval sampling, and acoustic monitoring, as well as surveillance for chytrid fungus. And we assess dermal glucocorticoids to look at stress levels as habitat quality improves and disease incidence changes. With this work, because we have our long-term data set, we can see some inspiring trends like this. This is in one of our flatwood sites in Lake County, where this is the amphibian richness on the y-axis with time since restoration on the x-axis. And this is when restoration occurred. We only had about 2 species breeding in the site. This is where we're at Following 5 years of restoration, we're up to about 7 species, and following reintroduction, 9 species. We see some changes as different species become more present in the community and more well represented in the community, but we're continuing to see that positive response of these restoration efforts. We have also been a partner on Blanding's turtle conservation for a long time. As you know, these are species of priority species in Chicago wilderness, and they are state endangered as well as being a federal candidate for listing. Now, Blanding's turtles are considered an umbrella species because they use large areas of aquatic and terrestrial habitat, particularly grasslands, but unfortunately, females have very high road mortality during nesting season, and we generally have over 90% of nests picked off by subsidized mesopredators. So with their slow maturation rate, it is very difficult to sustain these populations without some applied conservation measures. So we have partnered with Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, who tracks nesting females to collect and incubate their eggs. And the eggs are incubated at different temperatures because the species has temperature-dependent sex determination. So the rule is hot chicks, cool dudes. So warmer temperatures produce females, cooler incubation temperatures produce males, and we can somewhat compensate for the higher female mortality as adults by skewing the sex ratio a bit. So we typically receive the hatchlings at the museum around August, and we rear them for 1 to 2 years. And the idea is to get them larger than their wild counterparts of the same age because their shells are soft when they first hatch. So we want them to be resistant to predators. We want them to have greater survival rates, and we release them back to that nesting site. So since 2008, we have released and head started over 1,100 Blanding's turtles here at the museum. We know this is working. This is helping save these populations. So this is a figure from Thompson et al., which is showing what the populations look like prior to head starting. So this is DuPage County and then Lake County populations in 1996 and 2004. On the x-axis, we have the carapace length. So the larger length turtles are our older individuals. And you can see that in these 2 top figures for DuPage and Lake County, we really have little to no recruitment. There were no hatchlings surviving and entering the breeding population. So this is now jump forward to post head starting 2017. These are head starts that are entering that reproductive cohort here. We see the same pattern in Lake County. Had we not been head starting, this population would not have any wild adults remaining to sustain that population. In Lake County, we see that there is some natural recruitment happening. That's what these open squares are. That's because there is a targeted predator removal program to help address that nesting issue. So where we don't have that, we are going to have to keep head starting to offset the amount of predation that happens. With Blanding's turtles, however, there are some additional concerns. Every so often, we do get these leucistic turtles or hypomelanistic turtles that hatch bright yellow. This is generally indicative of inbreeding. And so at the landscape scale, we will probably need to be thinking moving forward about some genetic rescue because most of these populations are isolated by many, many roads. The other challenge that we're dealing with recently is the new threat of shell fungal disease. And this is an emerging pathogen that causes lesions and pitting in the shells of turtles. It doesn't cause direct mortality, but they can usually succumb to infections from pathogens that get in and bacteria that get in. So shell fungus was first documented in Northern Illinois head starting facilities in multiple locations in November of 2021. We were all able to release any turtles that tested negative after triplicate tests, but we largely paused any head starting efforts to ensure that we weren't releasing any potentially positive turtles out into the field. So all of the recovery partners across different organizations helped assist with field surveillance to see, is this pathogen present in the wild? It is, but in very low numbers and typically in sites where red-eared sliders are being dumped by people as pets. So we have done some collaboration on clinical treatment trials in collaboration with the U of I Wildlife Epidemiology Lab and the SHED veterinary team. We use bioencapsulation, where we're injecting earthworms with antifungal compounds, feeding that out to the turtles every other day to hopefully build up resistance to this fungus. We had 13 turtles in our clinical trial that were positive, 3 turned negative, but then became positive again. So that treatment after 18 months was not proving to be an effective treatment. Shed Aquarium has agreed to remain a positive facility focused on developing new treatment methods. So those turtles, as well as turtles from other organizations, were transferred there for a second phase of treatment. Last year, we were able to hire a wonderful new researcher, Dr. Callie Klatt-Golba, as our curator of turtle conservation, and her research focuses on identifying best practices for the conservation of local turtle species, as well as using long-term monitoring to try to characterize life history of long-lived turtles under these changing environmental conditions. She works closely with the U of I Epi Lab to try to correlate movement variables and other ecological variables with health parameters. And in partnership with Lake County Forest Preserve District, as part of her dissertation work, she evaluated the success of the first start from scratch Blanding's turtle population in the state. Some of my other work focuses on snake conservation, particularly smooth green snake recovery. They are an Illinois species in greatest conservation need. They're state endangered or threatened in Indiana, Ohio, and Iowa, and critically imperiled in 21 range states. So they are grassland dependent. They're insectivores. So where you lose that habitat, where you lose the prey base, you tend to lose the species. And you also, because they're so small bodied, don't have much of a dispersal mechanism. So where we tend to find them is high quality remnants or even really small degraded remnants, but without translocation or reintroduction, they're not making it to restoration sites on their own unless they are physically connected to a remnant. Our work has several aspects. We're trying to update the current distribution of the species statewide. We've been doing demographic monitoring with this population for about 15 years. We've partnered with DuPage County on a before-after control impact study of prescribed fire frequency, timing, as well as mowing to see how snake abundance detection and nesting activity is changing. And then we use direct release and head starting to support and bolster these populations. We're also looking at things like urban heat island effects. We're doing snake fungal disease surveillance. And this year, we're wrapping up a study of heavy metal bioaccumulation in their eggshells and in the soils in their sites. We're also wrapping up a cool retrospective study of density of this species in the Calumet region. So the only historic study of these populations is from 1947 in Calumet. And so we repeated the methods and site visits of that study so that we could compare changes in density and sex ratio, as well as growth rates over 80 years. We're doing some other fun stuff, looking at ecological interactions of their nesting with ants. But our ex situ incubation is where we spend a lot of time. We bring in about 60 to 65% of the eggs we find each season. We generally get 98% hatching success when we incubate them, instead of only about 49% in the field. And we're using this to evaluate different head starting approaches, doing direct release versus head starting, soft release versus hard release, and overwintering with brumation as part of the head starting effort. So since 2016, we've released we've incubated and hatched 2,033 green snake eggs. We've released 229 as 10-month-old head starts and direct released 1,804 as hatchlings. Through this, we've successfully augmented many sites where we're seeing increasing egg production, increased nest output, and we've been seeing consistent reproduction in several of our reintroduction sites. So finally, this year we started a new program partnership with Lake County Forest Preserve District on their ecological monitoring program. And they started their wildlife monitoring program in 2008 to try to develop an extensive species list across taxa for each site. The goal is to keep common species common, identify species that may be declining, try to better understand restoration response and management needs of these different species, and try to work in more research framework into some of our restoration questions. Finally, we have some other collaborative research projects, including a vernal pool phenology project, looking at the local and regional scale factors that are involved in mismatch, phenological mismatch between wood frogs and vernal pool surrounding trees. And then we also work with USGS on an international program called SNAPS, which is Student Network for Amphibian Pathogen Surveillance. And this is done in partnership with Morton Arboretum, where we're bringing students out and training them in amphibian disease sampling, specifically focused on red-spotted newts. The Arboretum has a nice robust population of them, but this is an effort to try to do early detection for potential introduction of the salamander fungus pathogen into the United States, because we do have the world's highest biodiversity of salamanders in the Smoky Mountains. So this effort involves Mexico, Canada, and universities and other programs throughout the US. So if there's time, I can take any questions. And I just want to thank all of our partners, because obviously all of this happens with a lot of people involved.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alice. Amazing, amazing science research. I love the collaboration. That's how conservation gets done here. And we will obviously have some time towards the end of the program with questions to follow back up if we can with that. Circle back here. All right, the first thing I'd like to introduce our Vice Chair, Victoria Wittig, and she's just going to give some highlights of the past year for the Alliance.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thanks again for such an inspiring presentation. Lots of great data and work being done and collected here at Peggy Notebart. So this past year at Chicago Wilderness Alliance was really tremendous, and it's still not over. As a lot of you know, we've been laying a new foundation, building new infrastructure, and getting ourselves up and running in a lot of exciting ways. And so what I'm going to share with you now is just a highlight list of those success stories this past year. So when it came to online engagement and educating our partners, we hosted Indian Country 101, led traditional ecological knowledge series in 2 parts. There was a native-led climate summit. We also had a number of cafes, our online learning opportunity. And just another plug for all the partners here, if you have an exciting story you want to tell or you want to connect across the region, please make sure that you reach out to our very own Laura Riley and get yourself a cafe. This year, we had 881 folks participating in CWA cafes. We also had our regular Green Vision Initiative team meetings. All initiatives are tracking progress towards their goals, including the hub currently hosted by the Field Museum. And let's see, we also had lots of in-person engagements. You know, again, this is our second in-person executive council meeting. The other 2 are virtual, so we're trying to meet the needs of all of our partners, but boy, isn't it great to be in the room together. Well, the other in-person events that CWA led the Native-led Climate Summit was in person, my mistake, not online. Also a brush pile burn boss training and sustainability lessons from Indigenous practices. So hopefully many of you participated in those opportunities. There was partner collaboration and outreach, the celebration of conservation Fermilab, a Midwest Climate Summit, a Lake Michigan collaboration, our growing Chicago Habitat Working Group, the City Nature Challenge. And in the City Nature Challenge, we wanted to highlight that there were over 13,000 observations. So that's pretty amazing. There was also a community wildfire preparedness plan. And who knows what's going to come next year? I hope your wheels are turning. You have some ideas. What can we bring to the table for all of our partners? Climate Action for People and Nature is a community co-design process that's currently underway, wrapping up towards the end of the year. And I believe we'll catch an update on progress in just a few moments here. And yes, so here we are. And not to mention that after this executive council meeting, where all of you are helping to guide the work of the Alliance, we have our Celebration of Nature event. And this year, there are more awards than ever before. Combined with the Force of Nature and the Excellence in Environmental Restoration Program, we have 31 awardees. So a lot of great work happening in the region and a lot more to come. So hand it back over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Victoria. Awesome. Congratulations, everyone. Excellent year. All right, I will take a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion. Thank you, Jack. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, any discussion? All those in favor, motion by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, the agenda is accepted. I'd now like to bring up Vince Moscow, who is our secretary for the approval of minutes.
Okay, I'd like to get a motion for the approval of the executive council minutes from July 23rd, 2025. Have a motion? Jack and second by Ted. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
And we do have a quorum.
And we do have a quorum. Thank you for establishing that. That's important. All right, I'd like to introduce Emily Reiswick, and she is our treasurer to go over the next two items.
All right, do we have a showing of well, they were in your packet. So just generally, the treasurer's report for this last quarter, we've been spending money wisely. A lot of the expenses were on Green Vision Initiative work, as well as Celebration of Nature expenses. And on the income side, a lot of great partner dues have come in and grants specifically from IDNR and others. But we are managing the money well, and you can see more details in your packet. But I will take a motion to approve the last 3 months, July, August, and September treasurer's report for quarter 3. Great. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Great. Thank you. So you can see the details of where we are thus far for fiscal year 25 in the budget approved versus year-to-date actuals. Our draft for fiscal year 26 really focuses on Congress. So a lot of expenses in relation to that. It's also our 30th year. So we did increase our sponsorship goals quite a bit, especially in relation to Congress and some Green Vision work. And on the expense side, we do have some strategic planning expenses in addition to general GVI programs and Congress. If there are no questions or discussion, I will entertain a motion for approval of the fiscal year 26 budget. And a second. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Oh, we're out of order here. All right, well, we'll do this later. I'm looking for nominations here, and this is in a different order, so we're just gonna go. Close your eyes, everyone. The slides are not in order here for some reason. All right, well, maybe there's not a slide for it. Close your eyes. I'll let you know when you can open here because I don't want to get anybody sick for this ride. All right, well, we're just gonna, the next that's supposed to happen, I don't see nominations here. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's just a different order. All right, I'd like to introduce Melissa Kustic. She is the co-chair of our partnership committee and has been working on our nominations with Drew Hart.
And Drew could not make it because of the government shutdown. So sorry, he sends his regards. So we would like to submit the slate of steering committee candidates for this next round. First, we have Emily Ricewig with a 3-year term as treasurer. We also have a couple at-large appointments for steering committee members who are just going to continue on. That's Leslie Dorworth, Laura Guderian, Ted Hafner, and Phil Nicodemus. And then we have 3 new people joining for 1-year appointments. And then after the first year, they can be considered for continuing on. And that's Jack Brunner, Adam Eistman, and Jessica Rudnick. Before I find somebody to move to approve, is there any discussion? Okay, can somebody move to approve the slate of candidates? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? We have another quorum.
Thank you. Congratulations. And they will be installed at the January meeting. And we had a great interest this year. And so Melissa, and with Laura's assistance and Drew being out of pocket, unfortunately, not everybody was slated for a position. So we encourage for those that have an interest in getting involved, a great way to start is getting involved with our local committees and working groups. And then also just putting your name. You can self-nominate or have somebody else nominate you, but there is a place for everyone to get involved, and there's plenty of work to do. So thank you. All right, next we are going to go into new business and Congress. So I'm going to have Laura come on up and we'll find the slides for that.
All right. I want to give a big shout out to John Wasick and Vince Mosca for helping us really do both a scope and a search for our Congress, which is the 30th anniversary this year. And we're really pleased to announce that the College of Lake County has agreed to be a co-sponsor and step forward to work with us to create Congress on November 6th of 2026. So mark your calendars. There are a lot of great things about the site. It's a campus building with indoor hallways that are all connected, free parking and connections to public transportation through a PACE bus and a Metra UP Northern Line from the Waukegan station, and Wi-Fi is excellent. And we're really looking forward to moving forward with planning at this time. And this is an opportunity to start our conversations for a planning committee. There's several different aspects of planning the day, as you may know. One, we were really excited last Congress to have pre-Congress day before field trips, which were amazing. Thank you, Paul Botts, and everyone that was involved with all the planning for those. There's also an opportunity to help define the plenary and imagine what that might be. The time commitments really, we have a couple of introductory meetings and then probably meet monthly for about 2 hours to really kind of just nail down the details on that. And then there's just some general work developing the theme and serving on the proposals review team. That is a fairly, there are some deadlines for that work. It probably involves about 4 or 5 hours of review work and then meeting 2 or 3 times for about 2 hours to sort of approve the proposals and advance those for consideration. But we're going to be starting in November, and I really invite you to consider if there's anyone on your staff or you who would like to be a part of this. And it's a really great opportunity to learn more about both about the process of planning an event, but also just the work that's going on around the region and finding ways to really showcase and spotlight and draw some attention to the really great work that we have going on in the region. So please let me know if you or anyone would be interested in serving on that with me. Okay. I will be sending out emails with some more information on all of this. So with that,
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. The other thing that was discussed, I think at the last executive council meeting when we were talking about Congress, and again, we have again, a great role model of what occurred in Indiana for 2024. It was amazing. It was probably one of the best Congresses that we have. So we're raising that level, that benchmark to make this even more spectacular. But also that the opportunity to have a night before, there was a request to maybe do something as a social and to make it a little bit longer. And so we are looking at that. So for those that are traveling, maybe with lodging and then being able to get together here. So, please, yes.
I just want to add a little bit more excitement to next year's Congress. It really is a tremendous experience to get involved in the planning. And I personally am so excited to explore Lake County. This is Lake County's time to shine. And there are so many spots and locations that I want to go to. I'm actually planning on spending a week in Lake County to really dig in. So if there's something out there that's really exciting for you and you want to lead, a tour or get involved in planning one, please, please, please respond when you receive those emails from Laura, because the tours don't happen unless we make them happen. So really get excited about it and find a way to plug in. You will not regret it, I promise.
Thank you. Any questions about Congress? All right, get involved. The next item of business is our strategic planning process. And so the steering committee has been looking to undertake, which is long overdue, a planning process for the next big ideas that are going to come out of this group here. And so we put together in your packet for today is a draft RFP. And once we have some discussion on this initiative, we look to get this out on the street. But ultimately, to guide us in the next 5 to 10 years on conservation initiatives, partnership priorities, and the organizational structure. So we'll be looking at short-term, midterm, and long-term. At least this is what we envision. And really important because we've been working through our Green Vision initiatives, which is still relevant. And we were working through that 2030 plan. Again, all still aligned, but I think it's really important that we map collectively and to help us identify where those priorities are. Our timeline that is being proposed, we have 15,000 that you just approved in the budget for this project. We hope to get a facilitator. And like I said, we look to have the RFP released and then back in right around the end of November with a consultant that would be selected in December, and then with a kickoff in January, with envisioning to be able to report back and then have the strategic plan complete in time for Congress and to be able to launch it with that alignment. So that's what is envisioned. I'd like to now turn it over to Emily to lead in a discussion, because we need to get your feedback on thoughts and ideas as we begin to plan this process, and we'll help take notes. And Emily, would you lead the discussion?
So really, this is an opportunity to hear from you all. A strategic planning process is an important moment in time where we reflect and look to the future about how our alliance-based and coalition work can be increased, can be improved, and can be rethought. So we really want to hear from you about what would be most beneficial in this process to make sure all our voices are heard, but also what you're hoping to gain out of this process for the Alliance moving forward. So I'm going to put everybody on the spot. How many people read the RFP in the packet? Yes, it does. So if you have it up on your phone or in your computer, please give it a look. But generally speaking, the process does kind of a landscape review of the organization's history and past projects, what have been some of the successes in the past, and also interviewing stakeholders. So interviewing some of our funders, some of our partner members, as well as, I can't remember who else because I don't have it up either. And then hosting some different sessions with membership on kind of visioning the future for the Alliance. So I guess my first question, and we're going to popcorn it, but I hope everyone will participate. Otherwise, this is going to be really awkward. And I am not afraid of awkward, just so everybody knows. I will sit here until someone speaks. What do you hope the process includes that you're not seeing now? Or are there things you think we should think about as we choose a consultant for how this process can be successful? Not the plan, the process. Ooh, yeah. Who was here? I was not here during that last process.
So there was a working group, I would say it was the Green Vision Initiative, and we had several things. We were working with the Institute of Conservation Leadership, who was helping us kind of guide and help what a network and alliance is. We worked with PCI to redo our branding and measure our statement, and with our Green Vision that we had identified, placed some narrative that we've been working through with our different working teams. And then we also had then worked with Bold Bison, again, to identify. So we've gone through 3 different firms to kind of help, and that's been guiding us along the way up prior to the pandemic and through. And then we've been working as a steering committee and as an executive council to kind of map our way on a year by year. But we feel like we're at a place now with the environment as it is, we need to take a look and go forward. And so really that's the discussion today. What do you think what's the process, and how do we engage everybody?
And another reason why I think this came up as an important time for us to do it is, as a steering committee, we have a retreat once a year and have a discussion about what are the priority projects that we want on the slate and how do we plan to tackle them. And we sort of went through this start-stop process of trying to activate each of those priorities in a meaningful way that engages not only the executive council, but all of us and beyond. And it's very challenging to do that sort of on the fly, right? And just kind of picking and choosing and not knowing if it fully represents the entirety of the alliance. And so the strategic planning process is an opportunity for us to reset and be very intentional about the programming and the work that we take on behalf of all of the partners in the alliance. So I hope that gives a little bit more perspective on why now and how it will help us, not only as a steering committee, but hopefully with the input of the executive council, we're all going to be on the same page of the direction we're headed and why.
Any other questions? Paul? Laura's coming to you.
I'm wondering whether the steering committee has discussed or has in mind any kind of overall frame or sort of assumed starting point for looking ahead the next, 5-10 years. In other words, strategic planning for an organization, sometimes, it's not a rule, can say, okay, we already know that the next 10 years need to be a period of growth or retrenchment, or we're actually we're taking as a given the existing mission or not, or any sort of boundaries or defining focus of the funnel of discussion and planning. Has the steering committee looking at it that way, or is it more just everything's on the table?
Guided by our initiatives, which we strongly believe are the right initiatives to have. So the GVIs are definitely it. Then there's an entire suite of committees and work associated with those committees that's achieving a variety of different goals. And so there's a corporate council that's getting restarted. I'm going to draw a blank on the other 10. But they're in all of our organizational documents. So, they guide us, but it's difficult to figure out how to activate them in a meaningful way. So I would say, Paul, those are sort of the guardrails and the boundaries. But when it comes to project work, think about the types of work that we take on. For example, climate action for people and nature. This is version 2, and this is intentionally engaging community members for input and designing what that is going to look like. There's an opportunity for us to revisit the biodiversity recovery plan. Is that a priority for the Alliance? We have discussions about it, and we need the guidance to know that that's the right project to take on. Is there another project that we need to have in the pipeline? Is there a series of projects that start out with one and grow on each other? So does that get to it? Perfect.
And I was going to say one other thing. I think that the underscoring that where we've been is definitely to have diversity of the region, to have strength, not just Illinois and Indiana. I think we've done a really good job over the last several years of building strength there, but really to still geographically reaching into Wisconsin and to Michigan if we're going to fulfill what that green vision is. There's area of representation as well as diversity. And today to see so many new faces and partners joining us is great, but we need to continue to engage and then get our CEOs and presidents involved with their staff so they have the capacity, because we have one staff team member and then consultants that drive the Alliance. So the area of frustration of initiatives, it's all driven on what we give and what we lean into with our own organizations to make that work.
Any other thoughts on what you would want out of a process for strategic planning, how you would want to be engaged as a partner?
I was tuning in really specifically to the portion that talks about the interview process, because I think that can be the most informative before starting the plan. The planning was sort of the internal folks. And I'm wondering how much, or if this is really emphasizing enough interviews with many partner organizations, especially ones that aren't very, maybe they're members, but they're not very involved or engaged. And so in here, it sounded a little bit like we're talking, that we're asking to focus pretty heavily on strategic planning committee, green vision initiative, alliance partners, but if it focuses on executive council. And I think getting really specific with that consultant on the number of interviews, the number of people, where they'll be held, like, as far as regionally, I think it's gonna be really important to make sure you get the right information beyond sort of just the echo chamber that might be the folks that are really into it and really involved on a regular basis.
Jack.
Yeah, maybe building on that. I think in addition to these really intensive and informative one-on-one, something that's a little bit more distributed and open-end that could be pushed out to a indefinite universe of people. Like I'm thinking about as a membership organization, not only to hear what they're thinking about the future, just to remind people that this exists and that, yeah. So I think that could be only more data and hopefully fairly not labor intensive. It's really designing together some questions to put out the people in a kind of a distributed format that doesn't require an in-person interview or an hour, but that as many people we can get it in front of could fill out.
So essentially, creating a survey that could be shared to member organization audiences to get a broader swath of feedback. I like that idea. Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, Steve.
Well, I appreciate what Jack said, but in a sense, we're still preaching to the choir. And I'm wondering if there isn't a venue that you could pursue that would engage communities within the region. What do you think of Chicago Wilderness? How can we better serve those communities? And so I'm suggesting perhaps a different type of a survey could go to those communities, organizations that are typically not in the fold with regard to Chicago Wilderness.
I have a question for all of you. And the question is, what would it take for you to assign your staff to attend GVI meetings and get involved in the work of those teams? Or what would it take for you to invest your own time on a steering committee or another one of the committees? I think that's something else that we really want to get to the bottom of. And we're actively working very hard to re-engage partners that used to be involved way back when, but, kind of fell off at some point. There are so many opportunities to connect with new partners that haven't been engaged before. And, it's a case of, what you kind of know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. So I guess for me, it's really important to understand how you value the work of the Chicago Wilderness Alliance and how that translates into you committing your time or your staff time to seeing us continue to make progress together. So thinking about that question, like what would need to happen in that strategic plan for you to say, yes, I'm going to be a regular attendee at an executive council meeting, and I'm going to, one of my staff is going to lead a GVI team or participate.
Maybe another way of thinking about it of we're at Congress in November next year, right? What in the presentation of our strategic plan, what do you hope to see in that strategic plan that is going to energize you or re-energize you towards the alliance? Are there specific things, qualities that you're looking for in that strategic plan? Yeah.
Really, seriously. I mean, those sound like you could either this body or maybe there's a larger body and you're fuzzy on the margins of sort of degrees of existing involvement. But I mean, that would be a really informative survey to for example, every executive council member organization, and a little bit of polite pestering to get a good response rate. But those are three really good questions that a strategic planning process would want to start with.
Sounds like we're sending out a survey.
Yes.
For a lot of professionals, it would be helpful for like events to have some type of component of continuing education credit, because a lot of times, at least in like private industry, like it's very hard to get those types of credits. And so if there were events that were associated with that, might engage that younger crowd that's trying to maintain their certifications.
Great idea. No, I'm sorry.
Go for it. To just grab me.
Yes, I think it would actually be great if the process was very open to new ideas, new priorities. I have a little bit of concern that there is an assumption being made that the Green Vision goals are kind of the guardrails for the future strategic plan. I would imagine if you structure this survey in a way that is really allowing for, new thinking, diverse ideas and thoughts, that I think you're going to probably see different perspective on how the alliance could become stronger and could also engage more membership participation.
That's great. Any other thoughts? Any final thoughts from people who have been members for a really long time or people who are completely new to the organization? Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts. And I just love the feedback that was coming, the work to help guide us and that. And so with that, we do have an action item that we'd like to have you consider, and that would be to authorize the steering committee to issue a request for proposal for a consultant to help us facilitate strategic planning, to review and select the consultant, and then get an agreement with the consultant. So I would take a motion from anyone who would like to advance that forward. Thank you, Nathaniel. Do I have a second? The second, that was Jack. Any further discussion? All right, so we did hear you. Definitely some pre-survey, some pre-work as we go through that process, and we'll take that back to the steering committee. Any other thoughts and comments? Otherwise, I'll call the question. All those in favor, motion by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, thank you so much. All right, we are going to then move on to Ted. I believe you're up next to talk about the green vision and what has been occurring, and then also our climate action for people in nature.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Oh. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to talk to you about two things today. First is the Green Vision Initiative dashboard that is about 1.5 years old now. To summarize what's going on here, we have the icons on the left. The first one is leadership. The second one is energy. The third one is meeting frequency. And then the fourth one is dollars. Like a typical stoplight, green is pretty good, yellow is cautionary, and red is bad. You don't see any red here for about the first time ever, which I'm really excited about, but that doesn't mean that all is rosy. Also to note on this, we have two changes from the last quarter. We went from 2 yellows to 2 greens up on the top. One is for goal 3, where we have 2 co-leads for the first time. And then the second one is for equitable access, where we also have a lead for the first time, and that is progress. The last line, I think I'm going to go in broad brushes here. Funding is mostly yellow. We only have funding for the climate action for people in nature, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the overall message here, like I said, is pretty good. I'm worried about stasis here. We've gotten rid of the reds, but I think this is this is an area where we may plateau, and that's my concern here. I don't know if part of this is being 1 year old is I need to update this, but I'd rather not, because it does give us some good measurements. And you can see, let me move. How do I move this? This.
Oh, no, I just put the arrow. Sorry, that doesn't go away.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, at the bottom. Then it goes away, right? Ah. Look. Not looking for me. Yeah.
High floating meeting controls.
There we go. All right, so along the bottom here, you can see that I have tracked this throughout the year. So in Q4 of last year, we had 2 reds, we had 15 yellows and 15 greens. About the stasis comment, you can see we dropped the 2 reds in favor for 3 greens, which is great. But that's been a year of sort of incremental progress, and I'm a little afraid of plateauing. Any questions on this? Yes.
Share what the GVIs are, that there's
Yes,
no label.
there is no label. So again, this is internal. So they go in order of numerical order. So 1 is healthy maintenance, managing healthy landscapes. 2 is agriculture. 3 is green infrastructure. 4 is our protection team. 5 is climate. 6 is, well, no, 5 is equitable access. 6 is climate. 7 is water, and then 8 is the hub. And the hub is new in the last year as a team, which is great. Any other questions on this? So pretty healthy, but some trepidation in the waters here on my end as a coordinator. Yes.
how about on average, how many people are participating in the?
It depends on the meetings. We get as little as probably 7 or 8 in core meetings for like agriculture. Other meetings, we get as many as 20 to 25. And then the other thing that we're moving from this year is each goal group was meeting as they saw fit and necessary. For some of them, that was once a month. For some of them, that was just once a quarter, which is the mandatory minimum. We are all going to quarterly meetings for the next year for all the goal groups to hopefully boost attendance and increase excitement and not tap you guys out because you're at capacity. We've been hearing that a lot. Yes, and for leaders, we do get a stipend. I believe it is it was $1,500 a year. I think we're putting it down to $1,250. But that helps leaders augment their salaries for giving their time. We've also found it's really helpful for things like this where you have to pay for parking or get you out of work, pay tolls, things like that. With some agency accounts, that doesn't really fly. So that helps with some of our leadership items and issues. Any other questions, Victoria? Yes.
Engage new people to be part of these teams?
So that's a good question. There are a number of ways. Word of mouth is one of them. When I'm out and about, I talk to people, say, hey, come join us if you're interested in a particular topic. We do post this monthly. We have an update in the newsletter that we send out every month. And then I link to how to register for a meeting in there. So that's a second way. And then the third way is group recruitment writ large. So we have other groups recruit like-minded members. Murphy, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I guess my question was, maybe should have been asked when we were talking about the strategic planning process. But how is the strategic planning process just voted on, like overlaid with what the GBI goals are? Is it overlaid? Are they separate? Like what?
In my mind, they should be overlaid. They should not be separate, but I'm not sure how we're gonna attack that just because there are 8 of them and they are so wide ranging. My guess is I wouldn't be surprised if we get some feedback to maybe minimize some of them. I don't think we would add any more. But there has been some talk to simplify them into like air, water, right, food. Something like that, or some regime like that, if you will. But I'm hoping that the strategic planning process helps inform some of this.
Yeah, as part of phase 2 of the strategic planning process and the RFP, it's facilitated a series of workshops and meetings with the steering committee and the GBI, the GBI working groups / teams, and then the alliance partners, such as executive council and beyond. So it's integrated into the process that we are hiring someone to implement.
Because I think we've had that was the vision, but I think ultimately for it to be effective, there is a lot of crossover, a lot of individuals being spread. And so they all kind of come connecting is a nexus, and so I think the way the structure is, we're going to want feedback. Is that the best way to proceed? Is there something better that's going to fit the alliance and where we should be?
And to Rebecca's point, are these the right teams?
Yeah. Other questions or feedback before I switch gears? Let's see. Oh, it's this one. Because I hid the thing, did I?
No.
Because it's, I don't know.
Is it not?
It's not advancing at all. No. I wonder, how do I unhide that? Is it?
Just slide it up a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna, if I can keep my hands steady, talk about the climate action for people in nature 2.0. This is an effort launched out of the climate committee, the climate initiative. And we have been working for the fall to co-design a process for the second iteration of this plan. The first one was a very top-down, expert-driven plan. Were hoping that this time it would be more community-driven with bottom-up. And to that end, we have congregated, if you will, a co-design team that is tasked with either figuring out the steps to and the process of the plan or planning itself. And I'm going to go through this so that you can get an update of what we've been doing this fall. We have made commitments about the plan that integrates, the plan will integrate with other plans and will have clear objectives, metrics, and realistic goals, and it will be written to appropriate audiences. It will be implementable by CWA, our GVI teams, and our partner organizations, and easily adopted by decision makers. It'll elevate nature-based solutions to protect and increase biodiversity. That's a big goal of ours because we're seeing that as lost in other plans or not included at all. It will create resources or a dashboard for educators, communications organizations, and nonprofits to use and inform their own communities. It will include representation of diverse voices and perspectives that are impacted by or would benefit from nature-based solutions. It will support and create equitable, non-extractive funding opportunities that ensure resource flow to communities without imposing harm or undue burdens. And it will promote bidirectional flow of ideas and funds between the communities and the decision makers. And lastly, we want to bring joy to and celebration and celebrate the work going on and the solutions that we're laying bare along the way that is welcoming, supportive, and inclusive. Building on those commitments, this is sort of a snake-like diagram of where we are. We did the co-design and prep. I'll get into the scanning in a second. We're in between the scanning and the practical vision phase. And then the rest of the fall will define obstacles, which we sort of already have done. Some of these aren't linear. And then we'll develop strategies and ideas for implementation. The scanning activity was a really fun activity. It was basically a big whiteboard that we had dates across the top, but it was important because it showed precedent and what came before. Here's the scanning options in the history wall. So we decided as a group we would go back 100 years. We looked by decade, roughly. This doesn't include everything. Wait, this is not our scanning option. I'm sorry about that. This is the example that we came up with, but ours is very similar. We had World War II, we had the Cold War, we had clean water and clean air legislation, as well as redlining and a lot of other things, but we followed the same path. And what you'll notice is there are stickies with stars on them. The group felt was really important, and these stars align with timelines that show roughly every 20 to 30 years, at least on our version. There's a contraction, a moment of tumult, right? We could say we're in that moment right now. But it was really revealing because every 30 years or so, we go through these shocks to the system, and it's about what we want to see coming out of that shock to the system as to where we went. The practical vision, what do we want to see in the next 5, 10, 15, 25 years as a result of our efforts? That's where we're going to next. With that will be the barriers and the obstacles, as well as what we come out of this. So please stay tuned. I'm happy to answer any questions on this project, but I wanted to give you an update of where we've been and where we're going. Crickets. All right. I either did that really well or really poorly. Yes, Jack.
Is there a way that we can actually meant to show on that one slide?
I
can tell you.
We can pull that up for you. Maybe by the end if we do some quick work. I saw another hand. Was it Paul's hand? Okay. Well, thank you. Other questions? Excellent. Well, thank you for allowing me time today, and I will pass this back along to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted. And again, I've sat in on a couple of the planning meetings, and Laura's in the room for that, and with Collaborative Connections and getting the second phase into agreement. They've got some time by the end of the year and probably the request right over the first of the calendar year, but it has been engaging and for those that are involved, and that was great to see. That was one of the pieces that we wanted to make sure that we achieved. So it is on target with that. All right, I'm going to turn over to Laura to give our managing director's report because there's some exciting news and some things that are happening. So here, that's not moving to me either, Laura.
All right. Okay, so well, it has been a really busy fall as we've discussed, and the primary thing that we're going to be pivoting, in addition to the strategic planning and efforts and Congress planning, we will begin our membership renewals November 1st. So that will be very exciting. But we also have a storefront and we have some updated merch. So Victoria's spotting some of it. I've got my vest over there in the back, so you can check that out. And we are really looking forward to starting the new year with more of our relaunching our cafes. We took the summer, we were very active, and as we transitioned into fall, we've had fewer, but we really want to hear from you all and be able to elevate some of the conversations that were happening, some of them at the Green Vision Initiative level. When we talk about the number of people that are attending those meetings, there are some amazing presentations and there are some amazing discussions, but we want to bring those further and broader through the Alliance, through the cafe structure, because then everyone can register for those and be a part of those. Not that they couldn't be a part of the Green Vision initiatives themselves, but our cafes are set up as a virtual discussion forum, a presentation forum. And so I think that's something that we're going to be focusing on in the early part of next year as well. So I hope that when I reach out to you and when I hear some of the stories that are being shared, I may pipe up and say, hey, that's a great cafe topic. And I mean it. I will like to follow up with you, and I'd like to bring that to light. So hopefully we can work on that together. So thank you. Oh, yes, lest I forget, we are in the process of updating our website. We were very fortunate to be able to start that process and are going to be meeting with a designer, and you will see a new fresh version and all of our events and our things that are a little clunky on that now, as you may have all registered for the meeting today. We are looking forward to having a much more 21st century way to do that, and it's going to be great. So thank you. And if anyone would like to join that communications team that's going to be reviewing that, also please see me, because if you have experience with that with your own organization, or you have someone on your staff who has gone through this recently, please let me know, because Maria and I and Victoria are kind of a small group that are kind of getting ready to launch us with some of the feedback from the consultants at your membership, but we will be looking for some more feedback from our partners. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And we are so grateful for Laura's leadership and all that she brings to the Alliance. So thank you, Laura, for all of that. So she's the glue, and Maria with all the communication, with all the social media posts, and working to tell all the stories that are going on within the region. I mean, that's really a big area that we can shine to. And in order for us to really elevate your voice, we need to hear from you. We need, there's opportunities within our e-news that we're happy to feature clearly at these meetings or in a cafe, as was invited. That's an opportunity to connect with partners. I know we've worked on, and obviously the grant cycles this year, we've been fortunate to have several grants that have in the past, and this year we're still submitting and trying to get some additional support. But again, we appreciate all the partnerships and everyone giving in. And I will also just give a shout out to our team with our IT department, Amelia Techman. She has helped transition, kind of lent our support to get the Alliance transferred from Google into the Microsoft 365, because with our partners, there were some challenges, with firewalls and being able to engage. You need to be able to get in a safe space. And so we're in a better place from a security wise. So we're transitioning, we're learning, but been able to add that in. So in your organization, it's not just, you know, having financial resources. You can give in many other ways and add that to the work. So now it's the opportunity on the agenda for just announcements. We want to hear what's going on in your area, what partners, what things that you'd like to share with the rest of the group. Maybe you have some needs or wants, and we'd love to hear from you. And then once we wrap that up, we'll adjourn and we'll have some time here to socialize and get ready for our celebration of nature. So announcements, and Laura, if you can work the room.
Yep.
May I start?
Yep.
I want to plug one of our resources.
An announcement, some of you know me as formerly the ambassador of the Northwest Indiana Urban Waters Federal Partnership, and, you know, just kind of browsing around, always have my eye open, checked out the CWA Career Resources page and saw, oh my goodness, one of my favorite teams has an opening. I wonder what that's about. And now I'm in my third week at Audubon Great Lakes. So that's very exciting. Yes, lots of great work to do, focused in the Calumet, but keep that in mind. There is a spot for you to not only post your opportunities, but to find opportunities. So make sure you check that out.
I would love to share a historic moment with Prairie State Conservation Coalition, and that is we are in the midst of our very first grant cycle under our new grant program for land acquisition, stewardship, and capacity building. It's called the Prairie State Conservation Fund. And as many of you probably know, the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation closed its doors at the end of last year, and we received a $47 million grant. It's almost up to 50 million now, and that is to grant those funds back out to organizations that are preserving, protecting, buying land, stewardship, and capacity building. So there will be an announcement at the end of the year about who our first round of grant recipients will be. And while we are a statewide organization, Prairie State Conservation Coalition, of course, there's a lot happening in Northern Illinois and the Chicago Wilderness Area Alliance region. So we look forward to sharing that information, but very exciting times. And we have 2 staff members who work at Impact House, an open meeting space concept. And we're very excited about that. And I'll think about how they can get involved with some of your committees. I have staff. I need more.
Well, if anyone's interested in coming over to Northwest Indiana, we just posted a stewardship director job announcement. So please share that. It's on our website. So that's one update. The other is if you don't have any plans for Halloween Eve, October 30th, we are dedicating public access improvements at our very first nature preserve, Ivanhoe South on the west side of Gary. It's a great community, climate resiliency, restoration story, partnership with the city of Gary and the community, and would love to see all of you there. So that's it.
Oh, well, yes, we do, but others have had that as well. Yes, the Wetlands Initiative is, we haven't had a gala in a bunch of years. We were supposed to in 2020. Now there's others here who had this experience. We had already booked the room and the date and everything for a 25th anniversary blowout. Well, of course, that didn't happen. And so here we are 5 years later and had further growth, and we're having the 30th, and it's on November 6th. If you don't have the information or haven't heard about it, I'm happy to share. And it's at a fairly new facility, the Morgan Arts Complex, which were one of their very first big events in Bridgeport. And we'd love to see any or all of you there.
I can make an announcement. Are people familiar with the organization Green Drinks? All right. So been working with some friends who are going to be launching a new chapter in the Chicagoland area. So Chicagoland West Green Drinks is going to be kicking off in December. So we'll be sending some information out probably through Chicago Wilderness with Laura's help on how to join and a little bit about our first meeting coming up in December. So hope to see you guys there. A great opportunity to network, hang out, good people, good beer, good conversation. So what's that?
You gonna do a botany and birds?
We can work that too. Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Right. And you can buy your Chicago Wilderness koozie and bring it to Green Drinks. That'd be a perfect, good synergy.
So for the Conservation District, we are engaging in our 4 to 2040 comprehensive conservation plan with a vision to 2071. And so there will be stakeholder meetings and ways to get involved. And so great for our local partners. There is an advisory group that will be helping us, but this will really key with the referendum passage of our proposition last year. This helps us position kind of what's going to be next and long after the legacy of those that are around or no longer there. It's to keep everything moving forward in conservation. So really important that we have community engagement. The other second year for the Great Lakes Park Institute, we started a program, Women in Leadership, Parks Leadership, and enrollment is open. So if you're interested in that, but it is to develop women in our parks and conservation area to executive leaders. And it's a great program. It's over several days with leaders from across the Great Lakes region. So love to have you there.
Oh, sure. Openlands just put out our new strategic plan. So you can go to our website and look at that, openlands.org. And I am also hiring a land preservation attorney. So if you know anybody looking.
You probably have something planned for this Saturday, but if you don't, the Thrive Outside Coalition is having a field day. I forget what they're calling it. A summit at Big Marsh Park. And that's a coalition of groups around Chicago area dedicated to equitable access to outdoor recreation. My colleague Kat Principe serves as the kind of facilitator for it. They have a lot of great activities planned, including overnight camping the night before, if you want to dip your toe into cold weather camping. So, but a lot of great workshops and activities at Big Marsh through the day that day. If you're interested, let me know.
Hi, just a short one, I guess. Friends of the Chicago River is hiring for a development coordinator. That's all.
Hi, this is something I think might just be really fun for a lot of the sustainability nerds in the room as well. So I recently started a new position as sustainability manager for Loyola University. And this year, after becoming 100% solar powered, thanks to the Double Black Diamond Project, it's also now Illinois' only carbon neutral university. So it's been really exciting. So if anyone wants to talk energy or waste, that is now what I'm nerding out about nowadays. But if you're interested in getting outdoors at Urban Rivers, we're having our final public fishing program of the season. So if you also maybe don't have any plans in the middle of the day on Saturday, feel free to join us at the Wild Mile and check out all the cool critters we have swimming around in the river.
Hi, everyone. I have a feeling everybody today is going to ask me how the national park is doing. So I'm going to just get half of the group done right now, and just let you know that, with the federal staffing cuts and federal funding reductions that have gone on, that's hit the national park especially hard this year. So there's been about a 25% reduction in staffing for the national park across the last 10 years. So before this all started, they were already understaffed. This year, there was a 13% reduction at Indiana Dunes National Park. And then they were only able to fill about half of their 80 seasonal positions. So a lot of the restoration projects have been greatly impacted by all of those cuts. Of course, because we have the shutdown going on right now, nothing is happening as well, which I know a lot of us know is a critical time for doing treatments. So it's been a really hard year for Indiana Dunes National Park. The ones that are left, feel like they're carrying the workload of 3 people instead of 1. And a lot of the cuts have taken place at the regional level. And so all of that supportive network that used to be there for the parks is being cut and impacting, it has a trickle down effect as well. And then to put the cherry on top, today we heard from National Park Conservation Association that Secretary Burgum came out with another round of reduction in force planned, and about 2,000 positions will hit Department of Interior, and they expect hundreds of those to be within the National Park Service nationwide. Our early reports are that none of those will be locally here. A lot of it is focused out west. But it's been a hard year. So if you see anybody from the National Park Service, definitely show your love to them. We've stepped up over at Save the Dunes to support them this year. We're a philanthropic partner now. So we're doing everything we can to support them, but obviously you can't fill a gap that big. So sorry to be the bad update for today, but I really appreciate everybody who did participate in our call to action that we did earlier this year and thank you so much to Chicago Wilderness Alliance for providing that network so that we can get those updates out. I don't know if we'll be doing one for this specific, reduction in force or not. We still haven't decided, but please keep an eye out and participate if you do see that.
Hello. Again, I'm George with a new organization through the coalition, the Windy City Bird Lab, a project that's spun out of my work from Open Lands and is fiscally sponsored by Illinois Audubon. We just moved into a new office space that is at the edge of the West Loop at Ogden and Ashland, and we're excited that we'll be sharing more on that. So if you'd like to hear more about that in the future as we get ready to announce plans, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website.
Well, I'll pitch in here a little bit. The Friends of Hackmatack are hosting our annual meeting on November 11th at the Lost Valley Visitor Center. You can learn more if you just Google Hackmatack. But our guest speaker is Dr. Michael Jeffords from the Illinois Natural History Survey, well known across the state. And he'll be talking about the loss of biodiversity and the value of biodiversity in terms of the lives that we lead. So thank you.
I am good, but there was one back over here. Is this the mic to?
You good?
All right, good.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Murphy Westwood from the Morton Arboretum. Our Chicago Region Trees Initiative partnership is having our annual partner recognition celebration on December 6th. It's at the South Shore Cultural Center from 9:30 to 12:30. We would love to see anyone interested in trees and urban forestry there to hang out, help us celebrate all the great collaborations across the Chicago region. We also have a keynote speaker coming, Dr. Christine Carmichael, founder and principal of Fair Forests Consulting. Her title is Rooted Together, Building Community Through Trees. So that information's on the Morton Arboretum website, or just give me a shout and I can tell you more. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I thought of something I could say. My name is Liana Smale with American Forests, which is part of my new update. I know some of you from my previous job with the Forest Service, but I've been with American Forests for the last few months now. And I just wanted to say that there's a small group of us here that are former Forest Service employees, and we've been starting to meet with the Union for Concerned Scientists, which has an office in the Loop, to talk about possible advocacy that former feds can be involved in, especially related to environmental science and research. So if anyone is a former federal employee or knows anyone or just wants to be involved in those, we're in the early stages of those conversations, just let me know.
Vince. Okay, and so while I'm walking over to Vince, I want to give another plug because we do have our advocacy action alert system, which you just fill out a form and that we activate per Betsy's plug, as well as the Career and Job Center where you can actually enter in your jobs and we just manually approve them and they go onto our website. So rather than, it's a form that you can submit directly to. So here we go.
Thank you. Taking off something that Steve Byers mentioned earlier, one of the things that I'm wrestling with and looking for advice is that I do think that we have too many like minds. We're singing out of the same choir book here, which is a really nice and big choir book, but I think we need more people that are from other disciplines. And I'm focusing on maybe public works directors because stormwater is such a huge issue. They have perspective, they have problems. We could probably help with that. Then also like the sustainability officers for corporations and things that might be a little bit more, have initiative for something like that. So anybody that has any insights into how to reach out to those folks to sort of reinvent some kind of corporate council style with that group, I'm open.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. This was great. Wonderful sharing. This is what it's all about. And to keep that going and not just in the meetings, but ultimately you've got a network here that we can work and help one another. And just again, our hearts are to those federal employees and those that have been misplaced. And all of us have been feeling the pain and we're here to support you during those times as well. So again, that advocacy alert is great and it's a great network. That's what we do well. With that being stated, I will take a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Nathaniel. Do I have a second? Second, Jack. Thank you. He's going to be a really good steering committee member. He knows how to move things along. All right. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor of motion by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, we are adjourned. Again, thank you so much for being part of our Executive Council meeting. And we look forward to having a wonderful evening this evening with all our honorees.
So our official reception starts at 4 o'clock, but we've been invited to tour the exhibits here at the Nature Museum. So you're welcome to do a quick tour around, and especially the By a Thread exhibit, which is their climate biodiversity resilience exhibit. So we cannot take drinks or food into the exhibit. So if you want to do a quick little tour now and then come up to the South Gallery for the reception, and the award ceremony will begin promptly at 5. I'm sorry, we are upstairs. So actually we just go right down around the hallway to the South Gallery. Yes.
Oh, and then our next meeting is January.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Emily.